Hi everyone, welcome. We're down here in my wormery preparing to check in on a couple bins that have ENCs living in them. Those are European night crawlers, and they're the worms that I removed from a couple bins. These are the labels from those bins, and then I took the contents of what had been in those bins after the majority of the worms had been removed, and I set up a little bit of a baiting station with the assumption that those worms had probably left behind some cocoons and some stragglers that I didn't round up when I finalized those two systems. And that's, I don't know, that's been about 22 days now. Yeah, 22 days have been going since that point in time. And 10 days ago, when we last fed the worms that came out of that material, we did actually peek into that box over there to see how things are going. I did actually even also revisit that system a week ago just to replenish the food supply. But it's time to actually check in on the worms that were removed from those two boxes that we bought an end to 22 days ago to get the worms fed, and they live in these two new boxes. What I'm starting with is this stuff. This is my little applicator bottle with which I spray the mosquito dunks solution of BTI bacteria. It's the stuff that you buy in the hardware store that you throw in your pond to try to keep the mosquitoes at bay. It's kind of works. Kind of works when you've got gnats or fruit flies that have sort of a similar kind of reproductive system, I guess. Somehow prevents the next generation from maturing beyond some sort of an early developmental stage. So that piece of paper has a pretty good size hole in the middle if you have to compare it to, say, what's happening here, which is hardly anything, just what would look like a couple tears. Although I would say that those are actually pretty much developing into holes as well. I don't know, what do you think? I bet we can get one more use out of these top coverings. So let's keep them around. Otherwise we would just probably chuck them down into the feeding area to supplement the bedding. But where's the feeding area? There's no feeding zone indicators. Luckily today's food supply includes a couple coffee filters, which at the end we can rest over where we last fed just to steer us back to where the last feeding had been so we can check it out the next time. I'll tell you, the stuff we gave them last time, I reviewed the video really quick, and yeah, there were certain things in there that you're definitely going to expect to see for quite some time, which is like chunks of corn cob right there. But the other thing that was thrown in here was watermelon, and the watermelon was even being used in a way to try to drive a lot of worm activity towards a test object that's running. It's been running for quite some time now. Gosh, I just had the number on the tip of my tongue. I was looking at the spreadsheet earlier. It's a compostable bag which has been in service now, trying to be composted down in the worm bins for, I don't even want to say a number because I can't recall what it was. But we should eventually stumble on what appears to be a compostable bag. And why did I think it was in these systems? Maybe it's over in bin number 1. From my point of view, going left to right like I'm reading is to come here into your bin number 2. So that's how we always end up checking in on bin number 2 all the time. Me just kind of going from left to right. When I position the systems, I usually put what I refer to as the younger bin, or perhaps bin number 1 of 2 if they're the same age, or lower numbers to higher numbers going left to right from your point of view. So maybe it was bin number 1 that we had placed the compostable bag into. Let's just go gently, because like when I'm doing test objects like this compostable bag that's been going for hundreds of days now, I'd like to really see how the thing breaks down on its own without me pulling on it and tearing at it and puncturing it and helping at all with the breakdown process. I'm curious to see how things break down when it's the first time I've tried running them through my worm bins, just to see how they go on their own with only the worm bin itself doing the work on the breakdown process. Me helping as little as possible. Right. We had attempted to bring a lot of worm traffic in the direction of the compostable bag, and it's when I see the knot that I tied in the thing in the very, very beginning, that's when I know I'm looking at the right thing. And it is getting pretty difficult to distinguish it from the surrounding material. And it definitely looks like it's kind of reduced in size unless we've lost bits and pieces of it. I'd really like to think that it's still holding together as a single object. From the overall length it seems about right. But if we see other bits of material down here that resemble that, then it could very well be that the thing is starting to break apart into pieces. But considering how long it's been in here, it's pretty impressive how well it's holding up. I mean, it was full of holes pretty early on, but just in terms of it being able to still hold together as a single object, seems pretty cool. So we only explored the middle section of the bin where stuff like watermelon, I think I mentioned it earlier, was added as their food last time, and I'm not too surprised to see pretty much no leftovers of that. I mean, at best, maybe I saw a piece of skin that might have resembled the skin of a piece of watermelon or something, I don't know. I think they did away with it. And we just gave them quite a nice generous handful or two of my prepared bedding. Nice dampened, aged, shredded paper and cardboard with leaves mixed in. So, I wanted to get the feeding zone excavated, and before we go much further in terms of disturbing all the material in these bins, I almost forgot to apply the BTI. And the fact that we disrupted a portion of the bin, well, kind of a missed opportunity to hit the material that had been on the surface, because that's most likely where you're, that's what you're trying to get at, is the surface. So, well, whatever. At least I didn't forget it entirely. With my record, it wouldn't have been too surprising if I had completely forgotten to give them the BTI application. But we got that out of the way. Coffee, we'll throw that in, I guess maybe towards the end. Ooh, geez. I knew that this was just a big mound of frozen carrot peel and chunks of carrot. I had just taken it out of the freezer and broken what I had pulled out into these two large chunks, and it was pretty tough. Was why I kind of went at it a little bit, perhaps a little bit overzealously, if that's a word, to try to break it apart. Maybe I should have removed it from the freezer sooner. I bet it wouldn't even make too much difference if we were just leaving it in a big mob like this, like a big pile. They'll figure it out. So we'll put the big pile over there and the rest of the stuff over there, here too. I think we got a pretty good split of the yummy foods. Let's give them a little grit too. This is pulverized eggshell with some bonus carrot in there. Interesting how that stuff flew all over the place. And there's a huge piece over there too. Alright, nice feeding. They're going to enjoy this. Let's not forget, I bought a little dessert too. After they eat the veggies, they can eat their fruits. Nice half of a banana for each system. What a yummy meal. And what's better than a nice coffee after dinner? Let's give them some of that too. I guess the nice bonus with these is that we're getting free feeding zone indicators that we could top off with at the end. But let's get those out of the way so we can sort of do a little bit of a disruption here, which I'll typically like to do to get material to cover up the feeding zone. This is also our excuse to go explore what's happening kind of outboard of the feeding area. I mean, ever since these systems were launched, there was that one check-in 10 days ago when the systems had reached 12 days of age. Today at 22 days of age. This is only the second time we've now peeked in on these new systems. The way they did away with the watermelon kind of tells me that everything seems to be in good shape. So I'm just probing down just to see how things feel. The worms definitely camouflage nicely in with the material that they're in, but if you just take a moment, you can sort of spot them. mixed in amongst all the shredded paper and cardboard bits. Let's get these little guys buttoned up. We're pretty much done in here. Just giving myself this excuse to examine the outskirts of the system, and everything looks really nice in here. Let's get the feeding zone over here in bin number 1 covered up too. And I'm sure we'll find more of the same, hopefully. As long as there's worms hanging out in the material, I'm convinced that it's in good shape and that the worms are enjoying it. Here too, a whole bunch of them kind of mobbed together in this material. They definitely blend in with their surroundings. Alright, well, let's see how those top covering newspapers are going to work out. One of them seemed like it was still pretty good with just only a gaping hole in it. That other one, though, was pretty much 2 pieces for the most part. And look at that, I almost forgot about our compostable bag. Let's make sure we put that back into service here in the middle, and perhaps just a little sprinkling of worm chow onto it. That would probably help a little too, in terms of bringing some traffic over towards it and onto it. So, feeding zone indicators finally showing up on the scene here. Probably didn't have one and at the first setup when we launched the bins 22 days ago, and last time we clearly didn't have feeding zone indicators either, so they're now moving up in the world, getting feeding zone indicators, while for the first 3+ weeks they didn't even have them. Finding the feeding zone in my systems is usually pretty easy. Once in a while though, I'll do a little experiment, switching around the feeding locations or something, or play around with the feedings, perform little experiments, stuff like that. But this is pretty routine, getting these little guys in the swing of things, and it felt good to be able to add a whole bunch of bedding like we just did here. Feels like we bought the system size a little bit up in terms of space for the worms to zip around in and be in. So I think we'll probably be following that same sort of approach. Always trying to, add a little bit of bedding when possible during the check-ins and the feedings. All right, that's it for our check-in, everyone. I got a few things to take care of getting put away and cleaned up, but I'm not going to waste your time with that. That's boring. Before I go really quick, let me just say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated, and if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye now.